Hi, I'm Melinda Kucsera, your indie fantasy author, and today we're back with another episode of Fantasy Lore and More. Today we're here with Belinda Crawford. So you've got Melinda and Belinda, or Belinda?
Belinda is good.
And we're here today to talk about Demons and Battleskirts Volume 1. All right, I've already got questions.
All right.
Yeah, so let's hear about Demons and Battleskirts. What's that
Well-
about? What is a battle skirt?
Okay. So Demons and Battleskirts is just a dark urban fantasy. There are no werewolves or vampires or anything. It's kind of, think Sailor Moon meets Game of Thrones, and you're
Ooh.
halfway there. Yeah, it was a hoot to write. Just should I read the back? Because I'm really bad at explaining.
No, that's fine. But I've got a question first. So if it's a cross between Sailor Moon and Game of Thrones, so so we've got our, because those are wild at different ends of the spectrum. Are we talking about like the part of Game of Thrones where you're killing people and there's the Red Wedding and there's all kinds of rape and other craziness? Or are we talking about like just the epic scope and that there are dragons and lots of insanity and fighting and stuff?
There is, none of the rape and stuff, but definitely the violence. And this is a bit of a spoiler. In the second chapter, the heroine stabs her best friend in the gut. So we start off from there, and it's just
Okay,
got a little bit darker each time I started writing it. So
okay.
Yeah.
And the Sailor Moon, because Sailor Moon is like light and fluffy with the powers and the transforming. So like
we've got the powers and the transforming.
Okay.
And we've got, for those people who have know Sailor Moon and know that Sailor Moon is a princess from future past, I don't know what the hell it was.
The Kingdom of the Moon, I think.
Kingdom of the Moon, and she's reincarnated, and we've got that.
And she forgets all about it and has the magic cat who tries to remind her.
Yeah, no magic cats. But our heroine is not.
Do you have a meatball head?
We don't have a meatball head.
Oh man!
I could possibly put that one in. No meatball heads. Actually, we do, but it's cameo on T-shirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Watch out for that.
So there's okay. I want to know more about that because that's interesting. But let's hear. Why don't you read the back of the book to us so we can get the official blurb?
All right. Well, let's get the official blurb. All right. So I'm reading from the actual book itself. Vern Davin has lived many lives, from noblewoman to pioneer to slave, all of them filled with blood and death, all ending in pain and betrayal. This life she would like to live in peace, or if not peace, then to at least finish high school, maybe even meet a cute guy, go on a date, kick demon ass, and be home in time to do her homework. But she can't always get what she wants, not with an ancient battle-crazed warrior sharing her soul, or fragmented dreams of an unseen enemy that threatens not just her existence, but that of her reincarnated sisters. Sisters who doubt Vern's every word and hold terrible secrets of their own. A darkness is coming. A bitter cold rising from the depths of the universe on the ravening howl of a bloodthirsty horde. And the only thing standing between it and victory are Vern, her sisters, and the lies tearing them apart.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, all right, how many sisters are there?
So there are, I've got to count now. So it gets kind of complicated because we got Vern, Nova, Sun, Della, and so Fion. So 5 all up. We've got a group of 5 girls. And okay, more spoilers coming, guys, but not too bad. 3 of them are sisters from their first lifetime. I'm not going to explain any further because it's just going to blow everybody's minds. But they're not sisters, all sisters right now. It's like,
so they were sisters. Now they're
friends, teammates, that kind of jazz.
But they were like blood sisters in a previous life.
They were blood sisters, and there are extra bits and bobs which we haven't got into in this volume yet, which is going to come into the second volume, about that as well. And it's like, it's gonna get complicated and icky. So yeah.
Oh, icky.
Yeah.
That's a
Icky.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be kind of I don't want to give away too much. And I honestly I've got the idea, but I've started writing it, but I haven't actually gotten the nitty-gritty. But I do know there's going to be more betrayal, and kind of we're going to be questioning who the good guys are. And yeah, whether Byrne actually started all of this on her own. So yes.
Well, why don't we meet her, Byrne? Because it sounds like she's our main heroine.
She is our main heroine. Let me just get this out. Oh, this book is illustrated. So
so for those who are just listening, there's this beautiful black and white image of a woman with I guess like shoulder length hair on one side, and the text is on the other side. It's a full page illustration. It's very pretty.
Yes, and you get the illustrations in the ebook, but they're not quite as attractively arranged as the paperback.
Yeah, it's hard in ebook to do that because readers can change their text and rearrange. They can basically rearrange a lot of what's going on screen, so it's hard to do that.
Makes life hard.
Yeah.
All right, let's read the first chapter then. Okay. Excuse me if I burst into laughter halfway through, because sometimes I read things I write and I just think I'm a tosser. So the spike rammed through the demon's chest plate with a wet crack, its black ichor splattering across her boots, some reaching high enough to eat into the nanomail covering her legs. Still more of it ate at the rich black silk of her thigh-length battle skirt and the longer drop of her tabard. It seemed to devour the warrior's creed embroidered in silver thread down the tabard's length with particular relish. More of the acidic black blood sizzled against the thin sheen of her personal shield. The magic weaker now than at the start of the battle, retreating from her arms and legs to concentrate around her torso and head. It would breach the shield soon, but the intricately carved plates of armor covering her chest and shoulders would keep the demon blood at bay, at least until the sun rose. After that, the bright yellow rays of dawn would finish the fight. At her feet, the demon wrapped two of its 3 sets of hands around her weapon's haft, mandibles spread wide over the sharp points of its lipless mouth. It stared at her with defiance in its venomous green eyes. The muscles under its thick yellow-black armor bulged as it tried to push the glaive out of its chest, even as it raked her armor-clad legs with its 2 other hands, the thick tips of its claws adding a horrid screech to the cacophony of the battlefield. She snarled back, teeth barred, matching its green stare with the obsidian fury of hers, and tightened her grip on the weapon. Under her hands, Ahriman pulsed, the once golden metal long since tarnished by the shadows rising from her soul, the runes carved into the metal writhing with the dark. Just like the blade on the other end, a dark crescent blazing over the battlefield. Az pushed the glaive's spiked end deeper into the demon's chest and twisted. She relished the thick, soggy crunch as the glaive broke through the creature's softer inner shell before it ripped through its innards and punctured its spine. The demon gurgled once, all 6 of its hands still uselessly trying to prevent the inevitable, and died. A yank, bits of carapace flew through the air, more blood staining her legs, trying to sink through the nanomail behind her knees, the smooth shine of armor-reinforced boots. Az was already spinning, Ahriman twisting in her hands, an extension not just of her arms and feet, but her will, her soul, the essence of her being, the blazing crescent blade as hungry for blood as she. A head flew, a horn, hand, an arm, ichor sprayed in black arcs across the pre-dawn, outlined starker and deeper under the glaring lights of the football field. The carefully tended green lawn turned to mud, shredded by talons and scorched by fireballs. The 3-meter-high goals at either end had been little more than toothpicks before the eel-headed demons. The posts shattering as the bust-sized flyers were brought down one by one by her sister's magic. A mammoth demon lay face down in the mud, its trunk-like limbs flung to the winds. One chest-sized hand was still wrapped around a huge energy blaster. The demon's back, a smoking ruin of bone and gore, blown to bits where the generator strap there exploded. And of the seats, The once pristine bleachers were broken and bloody, demon blood eating through plastic as readily as metal, monstrous corpses strewn over the white seats like forgotten sweaters. A final slash, a blood-curdling scream fit to shred her ears. As spun, Araman a whirl of pain and metal in her hands, the shadows embedded in its half still ravenous for more. But there were no more demons. The ruined football field was desolate, littered with corpses and the final pained moans of the not yet dead. Only the last fleeting shapes of the horde remained. Stragglers melting into darkness, fleeing under the bleachers and the scraggly dusk of the old industrial park beyond, desperate to outrun the coming dawn. She roared, thwarted anger and bloodlust pouring from her throat, the shadows in her soul spilling out her mouth in a promise of retribution. There would be no escape, no place the horned Italian host could hide. Telemoth wouldn't escape her again. Ab gathered herself, the cold power rising through her bones, dark magic coalescing in her hands. The soft shimmer of bells was all the warning she had. As quickly as it came, the dark, cold magic retreated within, raising goosebumps over her skin. Az turned as moonbeams coalesced, shoving Araman between her and the light, as if its thin shadow could protect her from the power rays barely visible beneath flickering floodlights. Della stepped out of moonlight. Tall and proud, her dark mahogany hair a corkscrew cloud around her head. She shone with power, from the delicate tattoos bisecting her eyes and flowing over her cheeks, to the gem-like stone held in its tarnished silver swirl atop her staff. She glowed with the intense osier of rampant magic. The power of the high priestess shimmered from her pores. For a moment, before the moonbeams faded, the darkness in Az's soul screeched. Pain racked her being, a thousand tiny slivers digging into the fabric of herself, piercing the shadows into all that was left. All that was left was burn. Della grabbed Az's arm, but it was the name of the girl lurking deep in the shadows of Az's mind that stabbed. The battle's over. You have to come. The bright blue magic faded, light retreating from Della's face and neck like water flowing downhill, disappearing under her fitted chestplate to the back of her hand, flooding into her staff. The high priestess's armor was more filigree than plate, as unlikely to stop a pulse ray as her long ground-length tabard and split skirts were to not get underfoot. Az ripped herself away, spinning from the high priestess. Even with Araman between them, Della's magic still burned. Magic may no longer have coursed through the osier lines linked into every inch of Della's body, but it lingered. A painful glow that assaulted Az's eyes, reaching through the thin, black membrane to hold the little girl, burn, her other self, from the darkness within. She wouldn't let the girl rise, couldn't let the girl rise. She had to find Telemoth, had to end this now. The high priestess grabbed her arm again. Long, gold-browed fingers, each one banded with 2 tarnished silver rings wrapped around her bicep. Magic still played along Della's hand, eating through Az's skin to the shadows swirling in her soul. Az pulled the shadows tighter within, sensed the girl, burn, scream as the cold dark left claw marks in her psyche, but she couldn't let the priestess see, not yet. Not when she had just awakened, before she had the strength to confront the blaze of the priestess's power. Sword, the high priestess said, using her other name this time, the title that curled not to the girl, but the fury and bloodlust of the self she was now. Or the small part of herself, the tiny sliver she had pushed through the barrier the girl kept between them. The strength of the barrier had surprised her, the determination of such a young, ignorant soul. Of course the soul was still hers, still Az's, one of the scattered fragments left after the wheel ripped the Az of before into tiny little pieces. The shining example of heroism and righteousness flung across the universe. Enough, the priestess continued. Her voice echoed with power, resounding through the air with the force of a mighty gong. The horde is broken, and Nova needs you. You have to come. No. The denial broke from Az's lips, and the sound of her own voice almost shocked her back into the dark, almost allowed the girl to rise. It was deep and guttural and hoarse, tasted like blood on the back of her tongue, ached like the first microns of acidic blood eating through the nanomail at her knee. It shocked Della too. Else why would the high priestess loosen her grip, the power under her skin dulling for just a second? A second was all it took, all that was needed for Az to launch herself into the fading dredges of night. Araman held tight at her side, The industrial park's high wire fence and cracked concrete Ozgiolite blazed, and Az screamed. Agony engulfed her, took the air from her lungs, the iron from her knees. Inside, the darkness turned to acid, was 100 glass-talioned demons ripping into her soul, and outside, the light forced her down, down, down past her knees until her face was in the wet dirt, until the musty smell of it was in her nose, and still it pushed her, sank her deeper into the darkness itself, into the bone-chilling cold where there was no sight, no sound, nothing at all, except the girl, the tiny fragment of herself with its desperate, naive desire to live, rose as Az descended. For a second, as the acid and claws hacked at the threads of her sanity, the priestess's brilliant blue light weighed her down. They passed each other, so alike, the same rounded face, the large brown-black eyes, the long nose and pale yellow-gold skin. The same determination, too, turning the soft bow-shaped lips hard and dimpling the point of her chin. The girl Byrne pushed past Az, imagining her boots in the other's face as she caught the Ozgia light in her hands and thrust upwards. A sharp snap, a jerk in the middle, and she was Byrne again, her other self, Az, trapped under the thin membrane that divided them. It was Byrne who pushed herself off the torn ground, who lifted herself out of the mud, the wet ichor-stained earth plastered to her chest even as it stuck to her cheek. It was Byrne who wrapped both hands around Aramin's haft, her touch that banished the shadows clinging to its runes, and levered herself to her feet, shaking and cold but free. Byrne, with a long, elegant finger under her chin, Della lifted Byrne's gaze. Power once again blazed in the lines over Della's cheeks and from the gem-like circle in the middle of her forehead, and there was lightning in her big dark eyes. Byrne spared one hand from Aramin to clasp Della's. Byrne, her best friend said again, the dark wings of her brows rising with hope. Is that you? Byrne nodded. Yes, she said, her voice strange to her ears with its hoarse croak. She cleared her throat, the muscles sore and the flesh raw from Az's harsh battle cries. The copper tang of blood mixed with the mud on her tongue as she straightened her shoulders, swallowed, and tried again. It's me. Take me to Nova. Pain crossed Della's face, weighing at the corners of her full red lips, while sorrow dulled the crack of lightning in her eyes. It's bad, she said, even as she clasped Byrne's hand tighter and moonbeams gathered around them. I know, was all Byrne said as the world disappeared. That's chapter 1.
I love the moonbeams, the repeated moonbeams. I see why the Sailor Moon references the moonbeams was definitely giving, and the jeweled yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So so it starts out that way, and so Byrne's basically two people. She's her Byrne, the main character, and she's Az, or I'm having mental blank on her name now. Or she's Az, who is the obviously the battle crazed warrior, and the remnant of who she was before in her first life.
So how old is Byrne?
So Byrne's in her teens. I haven't really given them ages. She's probably about 17. And chronologically speaking, if you count her first life with Az, she's probably a couple of thousand years old.
Is this the first time she was reincarnated, or like the
no? She's had lots of different reincarnations.
So this is old hat for Az.
Az is old hat, and so Az is there's only so much that Byrne remembers of all of all the sisters, all the girls in the squad, let's call it. She's the one with the most memories, or at least the one we know with the most memories.
Right.
Happened. And they're all very fragmented, and that starts to become, from the very first, actually, that becomes an issue, because there's this bad guy, the big bad, tell him off. And no one knows what he looks like. They just know he's there. He's going to come to kill them. or Nova, who's actually our Sailor Moon, figure in this. Whereas Byrne is more, Sailor Jupiter, probably.
Oh, Jupiter. I was thinking Mercury. She just seemed a little, just in this scene anyway, she seemed a little bit more, she just felt like she was just giving Sailor Mercury in this scene. Or maybe Mars with, she was definitely.
She's definitely one of the two. Oh no, I think Fion, who is we haven't met yet, probably takes the Sailor Mars. Probably takes Sailor Mars.
Okay, because Az was giving Sailor Mars, and Byrne was I'm getting kind of Sailor Mercury-ish vibes from that. Cool. I could be wrong. This was only an excerpt. So okay, but Az remembers everything, or Az
remembers most. Yeah, she pretty much remembers everything. But some of it is twisted because Az is pretty much also just a fragment of the original self.
Okay, so Az is not like a sentient being; that is a fragment of a previous incarnation.
Yeah, a little bit like that. So we don't actually have all the information just yet, and throughout the whole book, we don't have all the information. And it's kind of one of those things. If they had all the information, well,
they might make different decisions.
And yeah, and Byrne being the only one who remembers anything concrete becomes a point of contention, a main point of contention between what's going on. So yeah, like I said, it becomes icky. Like everything just becomes, messy. Leading to the stabbing of the best friend in chapter 2. So major spoiler, guys. Like I'm not sorry.
But it's chapter 2. I think it's okay if you spoil the first couple of chapters because people could have read that in excerpt on Amazon.
You could. And then we flash back 4 months. So the first 2 chapters are also the end of the book. And then we flash back 4 months and we get to that build up of how things happened.
Oh, okay. So this is we walked in the end of the movie, and then we're going to go back to the beginning.
We are, yes.
Interesting. That's an interesting way of doing things.
Well, I like to throw you in the deep end.
No, we were definitely in deep. On I was like, I need to get this. Is it on Google Play?
Unfortunately, not on Google Play, but everywhere else.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll see where else I can. That's where I tend to read is on Google Play. So I'll see. I don't like the Kindle reader. I like the Google. I don't know.
Cool. I get that totally. Not a Kindle fan.
I had an Amazon phone and it was on there, Playbooks, and so that was the first e-reader that I had.
Fair enough. Right, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we all just fall into what we fall into. So let's talk about this big bad. Who is he? Why is he after them? And why does he want to kill them? Like, what's up with the big bad?
So, all right, I'm gonna have to decide how many spoilers I want to give you here.
And what is the big bad?
The big bad is we kind of have two. We have the demon horde, who are interdimensional demons. They're from a completely different dimension. And then we have Telemoth, who is pretty much the big bad in the first volume. Telemoth is this guy who's been trying to basically kill them ever since the first life. So he was the reason.
What did they do? What did they do to him?
So this is where I don't want to give you too many spoilers. So in the first life, Nova was the imperial empress. Like she was an empress of like very vast spacefaring civilization. And Byrne was her general, or Az was her general, I should say, and also her half-sister. And pretty much, as we discover a little bit as it goes through, Telemoth basically wanted to a coup, pretty much a coup occurred, and
okay,
to it, and his goal was pretty much to kill Nova. So and Byrne's there to stop it. But there are other things going on there too. So
yeah, because you said there's a bunch of other girls. So there's
a bunch of other girls. And we have, I can see you. Okay. We have a bunch of other girls. We have Della, who is obviously the best friend. And in that excerpt, we learned she's like the high priestess. So in that particular civilization, that's what she was, the high priestess. And then we have Sun, who is the imperial heir, to the heir to the throne, and Theon, who was called the executioner. Theon is, I think Theon's one of my favorite characters. My favorite characters always tend to be the side characters. She is as Theon as she is in this life. She's a mousy little girl who doesn't say boo. And then in her other self, her transformed self, she is bloodthirstier than Az, and a little unhinged, which is what makes her my favorite character. I love unhinged characters.
You like the unhinged ones.
And they're in volume, they'll become more into play in subsequent volumes. But what was the question again? Who was
the big bad, like, who is he? Bad. What is he? What does he want? What does he want to kill them? But now I've got additional questions. Like
I know, it's just,
how did they do something so that they would reincarnate, or like?
Yeah, they did. So Byrne, as the high priestess, pretty much performed a spell.
Okay.
As they were just before Nova, as they were dying in their first life, performed a spell which threw them onto the wheel. So the wheel of reincarnation. And so they keep reincarnating to defeat the demon horde, who the interdimensional demons. And that's their goal. But Telemoth, through some other mechanism, is also reincarnating with them. And he keeps trying to kill Nova, the Empress. And
well, she's not the Empress. Yeah, she's not the Empress anymore. Yeah.
No, but and he pretty much succeeds in every reincarnation. He manages to kill Nova, and then when they do, just before Nova, or as Nova dies, Della throws them back onto the reincarnation wheel. And that presents its own problems, because every time that happens, that more of that kind of darkness comes through in Az and in Byrne, which leads to its own set of problems, as we'll get into later volumes.
Okay, so why do these interdimensional demons, like, what do they want?
Well, that's a really good question. I pretty much think they just want new territory. That's all we know at the moment. We don't really know much about the interdimensional horde.
Do they have a leader?
They do. They have a leader, and they just keep trying to break through. So yeah. So book one is really a lot of setup. And the way I usually work is I tend to discover the story along with the readers. So I have a vague idea, but yeah. So that's pretty much where it's at the moment.
Okay, so there's only the volume 1 out right now.
Only volume 1. I'm hoping to get volume 2 out next year. So yeah.
Okay. Why volume 1 and volume 2?
Well, originally this was a serial on Patreon.
Ah, okay. I was wondering.
I was just kind of going with that, and I thought that worked. It was a little bit different from book 1.
No, it's cool. Is it still in like a serial format in this book? Is it just like a collection of the serial episodes, or did you rewrite it as like an integrated novel?
It's more of like an integrated novel, and in fact, the serial is probably more like an integrated novel. It's really a
So it's more like chapters instead of episodes.
More like chapters and episodes. Yeah. So and the serial is still online as well. But you can mostly it's working copy, so you can see it straight from its original incarnation. As I was sitting down at a pop culture convention writing this, because this original story goes, I was at a pop culture convention looking at very cutesy Sailor Moon fan art the entire weekend, and that didn't do good things, obviously, because we've got bloodthirsty battle warriors here.
I I would say it
And
did do good things. You got the story out of it, which I think is a plus. It's definitely interesting. I like
so
urban fantasy.
yes. So yeah, it's an urban fantasy with a mix of sci-fi. It's actually my first straight up, more kind of straight up urban fantasy book.
What did you write before this?
Science fiction and space opera.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, well, I lost my question right away.
So yeah, the volume 1 is very urban fantasy, and volume 2 we're going to, as I said, we're going to be going back to that first life, so it's going to have more of a sci-fi spin. It's more like science fantasy because we got the magic in there as well.
No, and that's cool. I still forgot. I lost my question. It's still not come back. Now it's like bothering me.
All right. Why don't we talk about Battleskirts? Because that's a funny story.
Yes.
Have you watched a show called Ruby online?
No.
No, it's Ruby spelt with the W instead of U, so RWBY. And it's this online thing. It's got the same kind of science fantasy group of girls saving the world kind of stick going on. And there's this really funny line in one of the episodes. It's like seriously how a 10-second excerpt could influence the entire story. Where we've got these 4 girls in the group, 2 of them wear skirts, and there was this really funny line that these 2 girls come along and says, "It's not a skirt, it's a It's not a skirt, it's a combat skirt." And that was that's what bore the battle skirts.
That's fun. Oh, I've
Yeah.
got my question now. So you said they're like teenagers. Like, so is
Yeah.
the book mostly take place them fighting the demons, doing cool science fantasy stuff, or do we have them in high school?
We have a little bit in high school, and we have some romantic elements. There's not really a romance in it because we're at the start.
Well, no,
And
if this is Game of Thrones like, then
yeah.
there's no happily ever after for anybody.
Oh, there might be a happily ever after. It's not going to be totally Game of Thrones. Because I do like to have at least my main character live at the end. That would be very nice. But yeah, it'll be satisfying, but not everyone's going to be happy. I reckon that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so there is some of them in high school, like just
there is some of them in high school. There's not a lot of high school. There's not a high school stuff, but there is some in high school, and there is some battling the demons, and some obviously outside that. So we get a picture of how these guys are operating in the real world, so to speak.
Do they always reincarnate in like the same area, or how do they find each
No,
other?
they reincarnate in different areas. So they've reincarnated. I've got to remember now. I've had a reincarnate in. It's a second world, so I can't. I've just kind of shifted it and gone over there. But they're kind of in like a Egypt or an Egypt-like place, and I have one in France. So, and all sorts of different places, Africa, all over the world.
How do they find each other?
Well, they're all reincarnate together.
Oh, okay. So they are reincarnating all together in like a geographic area.
In the same kind of time. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood the question. So yeah, they're reincarnating all over the world, but together, and the same things kind of happen. So they're just repeating themselves over and over again. And because Nova keeps making the same mistake. So Telemoth pops up, and he pretty much his modus operandi is to make Nova fall in love with him, and then pretty much stab her in the back. And so Nova keeps making the same mistake.
And he doesn't get tired of this?
Well, he's got his own reasons for doing things, which are a little bit of that comes out at the end of book 1, so yeah, his target isn't Nova exactly, and that's all I'm going to say.
Interesting. So he's using her to get to something else.
Get to something else.
So how come he keeps going after them if he's already killed her in a bunch of different times? Like, why not let it go? Like, how many times does he have to kill her before he lets it go?
Yeah, well, it's a cumulative effect. And so the more times he kills her, the more times they have to be reincarnated, and the more times other thing happens. So the important thing, that to Telemoth to get what he really wants. And he's really, really close to it. He
how many reincarnations does it take to get the thing he really wants?
A lot. Wow. And so he's really, really close. And this time he thinks he's almost got it. He was fully expecting to get it. And it doesn't quite work out that way.
Now I want to know, like, what thing does it take that many reincarnations to get?
Spoilers. So yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to say anymore because I'll spoil it.
Is it in the first book?
It is in the first book. We do in that final battle. In the second half, or the first half, at the end of the book, we get an idea of what he really wants.
And why it's so hard to get.
And why it's so hard to, well, mostly what he really wants. I don't know. Someone else will have to tell me if the why is actually in there. Yeah. So, and there's also a bit of a question too about who Telemoth is in this life. And there's a bit of I'll lead you down the garden path a little.
So he's a little bit different this time around.
It's a little bit, he's different. He's got a different face every time. But which is one of the reasons why he manages to kill Nova so many times.
Do the girls have different faces every time as well?
They also have different faces. So all the faces change. And they all look different each lifetime.
How do they find each other? Because
it's one of those hand waving kind of things.
The spell.
They just kind of instinctively know each other. And yeah, the hand waving, so they recognize each other. And then there's a special event, like celestial event that happens, and it boosts their powers and kicks things off.
So what are their powers? Because we had the moonbeams.
So Burn is pretty much a warrior, and we have the darkness, which is coming up. So yeah, Burn pretty much kills things, and Fion is the same, but she can also, the interdimensional horde, she can also see the interdimensional rifts, and then Della, as the high priestess, is more of a healer support. I think this is where my gaming genes come out. She's more of a healer support with the moonbeams. Nova, as the Empress, so her powers are kind of sun/fire based, and she's also a fighter, but she also has some fireball throwing capabilities. And Sun, she's another kind of magic user, also fire based, and she can do what we also call, calling down the stars, which is basically how she's the one who can close interdimensional rifts when they open. So we don't actually see that. We get it referenced, but yeah, there's only so much space in that book to get all the goodness in.
So okay, so she can see the rest, but how do they get to the right place? Like, is it more than seeing it? Do they sense it? Is she have GPS for the rifts?
They search for them, go on patrols, and because of the hand wavium, the rifts are happening in their part of where they are as well.
So it's not happening elsewhere in the world.
It's not happening elsewhere in the world. Yeah. It was, otherwise we'd be overrun by demons already.
That was going to be my next question, is like, how come we're not? And why do the demons just keep going there? Is there something specific that they need or want?
Yeah. Well, that might come out a little bit in subsequent volumes, but at the moment, hand wavium.
There's a lot of hand waving.
There's a lot of hand waving. It happens. And I guess that's part of my book. I tend to use a bit of hand waving. Just don't look over there, look over here. We'll be fine.
Hey, we have to do whatever we have to do to get through the story.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right. So we've got the girls, we've got the demons, we've got Telemoth. What else is going on in this world? Like, so you said this is second world, so it's not Earth.
Well, it's based on Earth. I've just switched it over there because I'm making I just made up my place, and it's the details of it are kind of a mash of American and English Australian details, so like the school system and stuff like that. And because I like to connect all of my stories you can see a little bit at the back there. This is my great timeline of stories, and that's my science fiction timeline. And I can't quite figure out how to put demons on my science fiction timeline. So I just go, yep, we're over there.
So that's why you have the urban fantasy.
The urban fantasy, yes. Yeah. And the rest of the world, we don't really deal a lot with what's happening in the wider world. We do get more of what's happening with Byrne and Az, and that struggle between Az trying to take over and do her thing, which is pretty much seek out every demon possible and kill them in the most bloodiest way possible. And so we get a lot of that, and Byrne's fighting really hard, but she's losing this fight. So that's where we're going.
Yeah. So all right. So there's not. So other than them, there's nothing else magical about the world.
There's nothing else magical about the world. No, it's just these guys doing their thing.
So how did they have magic on this world when nobody else does? That's also part of the spell. Because like you said, they're like the spacefaring society that she was the empress of. So were they always incarnating on this Earth-like world, or were they incarnating elsewhere? And
no, we're incarnating in this particular Earth-like world
only.
And because we've already got the demons coming through the dimensions, so we'll stick here. And we've just got some magic, which could be the case of this science so advanced it's indistinguishable from magic. But yeah, we've just got magic. Hand waving.
Yeah. So like, okay, so they're in this spacefaring society. Like this Earth world was part of that society, or like it was some backwater.
This Earth. So they're basically, Earth was the main thing. So we've actually done a time slip. We did lots of time slips. All right.
So they went back in time and started reincarnating.
And start reincarnating again.
Are they trying to reconnect with where they left off in the future?
At the moment, they're just trying to survive.
Right.
Trying to keep Nova alive, and stop their main goal is not to defeat Telemoth. He's like a side goal. It's actually to stop the horde from coming through. And that's all they're
permanently stop it, so that they just stops being incursions.
Yes, permanently stop the horde from coming through, and Telemoth just keeps mucking that up. He just keeps killing them before they get to do that.
So they have a plan. There's a way that they can permanently stop the demons from coming through. And are they trying to end their own cycle of reincarnation?
Well, I don't think they've probably. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. I think none of them are having a good time reincarnating, and they just want it to stop. So there's a because of the way that they started reincarnating, it was pretty hectic, and yeah, it's there was probably a couple of minutes for them to reincarnate before Nova died the first time. So they just hit the button and went for it, and that's where we're going. It's very messy. How they're doing things.
How did they pick this world, or this world had? I'm just like, how did we get from? My brain can't wrap around like how we got from this Empress of Spacefaring Society to reincarnating on this Earth-like place.
So
place somewhere special in their time.
The same world. So the society the Spacefaring Society was actually based
on that world. Okay.
Yeah. So this Earth-like world was the prime world.
Gotcha.
And so they pretty much
it's just future. Gotcha.
Yeah, on the future. And for the when getting thrown back into the past, it's a bit of a crapshoot because the wheel of reincarnation just does its own thing. And the most that the High Priestess Della could do was actually put them on it.
So they weren't on it before?
No, they weren't on it before. Well, yeah, not on it before.
So, like, I don't know. Okay, so I don't understand that. How, like, isn't if there's a wheel of reincarnation, wouldn't everything be on it?
Yeah, everything, but they weren't on it together.
Oh, okay. So they were on it separately, and now
they're not together. So
now they're in it as a group. Gotcha.
Yeah. So Byrne pretty much got the sticky tape out and went, "We're gonna stay together." But Della did. I'm sorry, I always get the names mixed up. So Della did that, but yeah.
Because they need to stick together in order to accomplish their mission. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did they ever take on like new members or find other people who got caught up in the spell from their time?
Just the group and Telemoth. And yeah. And there is one other, but that's not a spoiler. I can't tell you that right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, so that's that other person just throws an extra spanner in the works.
Interesting. When does that person come out in volume 2 or volume 3?
Volume 1. He's in. There he goes. Spoiler. He's in volume 1. And I can't say anything else without spoilers right now. Because that's a spoilers. So
zipping it.
Definitely.
No, that's. Oh, so all right. So how many books are you planning on for this series?
4. And so book 1. We're in the current lifetime, and in the current lifetime, in the current kind of Earth, like modern society. And then book 2, where it's going to be kind of like a flashback. We're still going to have some from the current life, but we're also going to delve into what happened in that first life, and all of the threads and plots that actually has gone into making this such a complete mess. And there's actually at the end of, because this volume 1 was a Kickstarter as well, and as part of the Kickstarter, I actually added an extra little chapter at the end, which gives you some answers that you really want at the end of book 1. But also takes you starts that flash forwarding. Yeah, okay, flash forwarding to that first life and some of the things that are happening there. So that will continue in book 2, or volume 2, I should say. And then obviously volume 3 and 4 will actually deal with the aftermath. So the aftermath of volume 1 and the whole reincarnation thing with the demons and Telemoth. And
wow.
as is going to be a big thing. So as the battle crazed warrior with the darkness, she's going to be a big thing too.
That sounds like a lot to wrap in 3 more books. You
it
sure?
Well, we'll see how it goes. We could have a few more books, but at the moment I'm planning 4. And I tend to pack things in.
Okay.
So yeah. Just go with it.
Yeah. So books 3 and 4 we should look for in 2024, 2025?
It depends how quickly I can write them. At the moment it's going to be 25, 26.
25, 26.
I've got a few other. Sorry, I've got a dog down here eating my Ugg boot. And we have other books to write as well at the same time. So I try to publish a couple of different stories a year.
No, that's cool. That's a good cadence. I publish a couple of books a year too. It's sustainable, I find.
It is. Yeah, it's sustainable. And I'm sorry, 1 second.
Oh, the dog.
The dog. She's managing to destroy my Ugg boot. So let's put that over there. She's very happy with herself now. She's got some fleece to chew. Yes. So yeah, just keep. If you're one of those people who like to read everything once it's complete, you're gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's gonna be a wild ride. Yes. It sounds like it is a wild ride. Not that it's going to be. It's going to become an even wilder ride, and it already is. Is there anything else you want to say about Demons and Battleskirts Volume 1 or the sequels? Any more spoilers?
Well,
no, you don't have to.
If there's a particular one you want, I could consider telling you what it is, but yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. No,
that'll leave some mystery.
It can be some mystery, and it will be pretty insane. Yeah.
So don't fall in love with any characters.
Yeah, don't fall in love with any characters. I might kill them. So yeah, be careful.
Well, you heard it here. No character is safe. From Belinda Crawford. All right, then. This has been fun. You're welcome to come back with Volume 2, 3, 4, 5.
However long it goes on, yes.
Yeah. Not that I'm encouraging the characters to misbehave, but I think you did say you're a pantser or a discovery writer, so
I'm totally a pantser. So they are very well known for misbehaving.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
I also I'm doing more plotting now than before. Sometimes it works and they fall in line. Sometimes I end up throwing away that outline and trying to plot something different because they didn't.
Yeah, I used to be a plotter and but it never worked for me. So yeah. The plot would go out the window before chapter 5.
Oh yeah, mine do too, but like I still have to plot them out of some of the problems they get into. We pants our way in, but we have to plot our way out because otherwise we're never going to escape from this.
I find that in the last book, I've had so much fun in the previous books that the last book is like, I have to make all this make sense now. So
yeah, that's when the plotting comes in. You're like, okay, you've been you've been promising this. We've now got to actually do it.
Deliver. Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And that needs a bit of plotting to make sure that, all the things that you promise get done and by the right characters.
Yep. Answer those questions, those burning questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you got to answer them. If you ask them, you can't not answer. Yeah.
Or you could just leave a cliffhanger for the next series in the series.
Well, you got to answer some questions. You can't leave everything hanging. I try to answer at least like 1 or 2 per book. That's about all I can promise that the characters will actually do.
Yeah. The important questions get answered. So.
Yeah. Of course, they have to. But this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for
And
having me.
well, you're welcome. Hopefully we'll have you back in the future. And this has been another episode of Fantasy Lore and More. Today we were talking with Belinda Crawford about Demons Battleskirts Volume 1. I love that title. So I'm your indie fantasy author, Melinda Kucsera with an M. And this was Belinda Crawford with a B. Thanks so much. Have a great day or a great night, depending on where you are and where you're listening.